You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind.
With the emergence of global internet, a human population of several billions, an electronic noosphere, that we are now within the shadow of this transcendental object at the end of time.
I find it a little difficult to say what the subject matter is going to be, because
Magic is an enemy and truth is a menace.
Shake and bake, steps back, three-pointer, bang!
Good evening, and thank you for joining our fine radio program that we like to call the Midnight Variety Hour. I'm Tom.
And I'm Adam. What's going on?
And we are here on a Friday. For you, it's midnight. For us, it is the middle of the day. And we have no guest, but that's okay, because sometimes Adam and I just like to have a little palate refresher where we just talk to each other with no guest, which can be nice, right?
Yeah, and I was telling Tom, we do this shit for a living. This is what we do. We talk.
We do not get paid
about-
to do this at all.
Okay, when I say for a living, you can
We
take that
live
however
to
you
do
like.
this.
There you go.
But we do not get paid to do this.
Yeah, man. So,
Not yet.
So yeah, that's would be the dream, right? To get paid.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan has the dream job. Really, he has extremely fascinating people from all around the world come on his show.
I mean, we could go after who would sponsor us, though? Like, who do you think are people that...
St. Arnold's.
Whoa. Starting right now. St. Arnold's lawnmower cools you off on a hot summer day, and it is refreshing.
What if we got other podcasts to sponsor us?
Yeah, why don't more podcasts do that? You know? Like, hey, my friends over here at this show, when Marcus starts his podcast, we could
Yeah, we sponsor each other.
sponsor each other.
Yeah, why not?
$20.
Sure. Yeah, man.
Mm.
So have you seen wait, let me ask you this, Tom.
Go ahead.
Do you think, so we had this conversation earlier, do you think plants are conscious?
Wow.
Do you think they're
Very
conscious
random.
beings?
It depends on your definition of consciousness, you know?
My
Well-
definition is are they aware? Awareness. To me,
Of
consciousness and
themselves?
awareness is like goes
Are they self-aware? Are they aware of their surroundings? What?
just awareness.
Yeah. I mean, sure. On a very baseline level, right? They know if they need more of something. They know if they need more water. They know if they need more fucking sun. I know that you're about to, like, as soon as I stop talking, you're going to come at me with some wild fucking
No, because
plants have dreams. Fucking plants can see the future.
That would be amazing.
Okay.
No, I just think about it a lot because, like, I don't know. I think about, like, what's intelligent, what's not intelligent, what are intelligent beings, intelligent, like, you know, life forms and
Yeah.
things like that. And a lot of times plants get the bad end of the stick. You know, like, they're just a plant. Like, you know what I mean? You kick them around. Like,
Sure.
you don't really care about them. You shoot them with freaking glyphosate weed killer. Like, get out of here. You know what I mean? Just-
Pesticides.
you don't really look at them as, like, a living thing, right? A
Yeah.
lot of people don't, so...
People just walk by and they'll just like snap a branch off of a tree
Yeah.
as they're walking, just casually. Yeah, but people don't.
Or
I
just
mean,
rip leaves off. Just,
but
yeah.
do you think people should not do that? Do you think there's a case for like that is cruel? You're harming a living
Yeah,
being.
I mean, well, no, because here's the fascinating thing with the plant is that it doesn't have like vital organs like we do. So you can rip leaves and whatever you want off of it as long as you're not destroying its entire root system. It's going to continue to live and be all right. I mean, but they do feel pain.
They have pain receptors.
Yes. Well,
And
so
where do
not
the
in
signals
sense-
go?
Not in the sense that we do,
Mm-hmm.
but they do react to pain and feel like they have feelings, right? So not in the sense of that we have feelings that we get sad or mad, but they have electrical responses.
They know I've been damaged.
Yeah, you can hook up sensors like
Mm-hmm.
the same thing you would like electromagnetic sensors or whatever that measure the electrical frequency. What do you call them? EMGs or what is it called? No, EMK or what? Fuck.
EKG.
EKG.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't get my acronyms mixed up.
There's too many.
You can
Yeah,
hook
yeah.
up one of those to a plant and you can measure their electrical pulses, right?
Yeah.
And they did like a Venus flytrap. It basically how it closes. It's its trap is through electrical pulses.
Sure.
It feels electrical signals, and it's the same thing with like they did it on MythBusters. Actually, is where the first time I saw that. There's an episode on MythBusters where they hooked one of those up to a plant, but it goes deeper than like first they were like lighting like the leaves on fire, like exposing it to like basically harmful conditions that it would experience in nature, and it would release certain chemical responses, and it would react to those. Like if you just mess with one leaf or one branch or whatever, the entire plant's going to release like these chemical responses, and the same thing happens. Like scientists have already studied like there's been certain communities of giraffes that have like starved to death in Africa because like these trees after the giraffes have eaten after the giraffes like eat one of the trees release these chemicals throughout the entire tree that makes it unpalatable to the giraffe, and so the giraffe won't eat the tree anymore.
It just changes the taste of
it can change its taste. It's fascinating, right? So it changes its taste, but then what's even more crazy is that either through the air or it must be through the air, because like if like the air is blowing a certain way and whatever that tree is releasing, it'll send that, or I guess it won't send it on purpose, but or it does, I don't know, because there's still so much unknown, but basically sends these chemical signals to other trees, and those trees pick up on it and will begin to change their taste, the flavor of their leaves. So it knows like a giraffe is coming. Like just think about it. They've been there for millions of years.
Do we know how? How are they sending those signals?
I mean, I haven't like read the research papers on it. I'm just telling you what I've seen on it. Is crazy shit like that. And then like, what was the reason I was talking about that? Oh yeah, it's like, do they feel pain? So yeah, I mean they do.
Do they have thoughts?
Ultimately, it's like, I mean, that's another whole question. It's like, what is a thought? What is like? Where do thoughts come from? We're still trying to figure that out.
Because
in our
they
own
don't
self,
have brains, right?
Yeah.
And so then you have to ask yourself, like, is a brain necessary to having, cognitive function? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then it's like, on what level because I mean, you think of dogs, and like people will usually concede, dogs probably have emotions, and they probably dream, and dogs are like very simple-minded creatures. So it's like, plants, which don't even have a brain,
So okay, what is happening in your brain that produces thoughts? Electrical signals, right? Like
I'm not a neurosurgeon, but I would imagine,
right. So I mean, so we know that there's neurotransmitters, and neurotransmitters work with neuroreceptors through electrical signaling and electrical pulses, right?
Right.
That's how we're able to measure how our brain works and how certain parts of our brain are on or off and stuff like that through the electrical system in our brain. So if that's really all our brain is like just this super integrated like circuit of of this wiring, if that's what it is, then plants have that as well, but not an actual organ. Its entire being can send electrical pulses throughout. I mean, just like that's how you feel pain too. Like whenever you get a scratch or a cut or a bruise or you get hit by something, those electrical signals are being sent to your brain so you can feel that, right?
Right.
I mean, plants have the same thing. It's just not going to a brain. It's just different. It's just a different kingdom. You have just different levels of organisms, and like mycelium or mushrooms.
That's what I was going to say. Like, it's not
just
just plants and trees. Like, I mean, you could get into everything that we've learned about mycelium and mushrooms and different forms of fungi where they have the ability to communicate over extremely large spaces. They call it the mycelial network. So it's crazy. I didn't know jack shit about mycelium until relatively recently. I think until I saw Paul Stamets on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah, that guy's awesome.
Paul Stamets is an amazing person.
He's weird too.
He's ultra, super, hyper fucking weird, but he's very cool.
Yeah.
I would love to get what do you call someone that studies... Is there a word for someone that purely studies mycelium?
Yeah,
or
a mycologist or something like that. It's something with
that's
the word
what I
mycelium.
want to get on the show. I want to get a whatever the fuck ologist on the show.
Look it up. I'm sure you can figure out what it is. But
someone with a PhD in myceliumology. All right.
Another thing we were talking about awareness with like plants is like I told you this as well, is like there was a study they did where they just put in a small room with 4 walls, nothing else around except a pole in between 2 tomato plants. So that all there is in this room is 2 tomato plants and a pole. These 2 tomato plants they're vine. They grow vines, right?
Yes.
If everyone's seen a tomato plant grow their vines, and so both the vines, as soon as it started to grow, grew immediately directly towards the pole, and so that's one weird thing. You're like, wow, how did they know there's a pole in the middle of the room? Like, how do they know? They can't see. They don't have eyes, but somehow they both grow towards the middle of the pole. One of them latches on. The other one immediately knew that the other plant won the race, beat him to the pole. So he shifts. He's like, okay, well, I can't use that pole anymore. It's going to be taken over by that tomato plant. Changes direction, immediately heads the opposite way. So then that's another question is like, how does it know that, like how do those things happen? And so that immediately tells you that they have spatial awareness, meaning that they know what's around them. They know what's in their environment.
Right.
Just like I know that you're sitting across the table from me, and I know I can take a step towards you and touch you. They have that same sense of awareness.
Well, we have how close are we to even understanding how that's possible?
Yeah, fairly close, I think. There's still so much we have to learn, but
the idea of a creature with no brain having the level of spatial awareness to, like, I wouldn't be surprised if it could detect that there was a wall directly next to it, or if it could detect that someone was trying to, like, you can make a tree grow straight up by tying it to a pole or something rigid. But it's like, how the fuck could this plant possibly know that yards away there's a pole?
Yeah.
And it just naturally decides to grow that way.
Yeah.
There's no other reason it would grow that way unless it physically or mentally somehow made a cognitive choice to try and reach that pole.
Right.
So how do you explain that? It is mycologist, by the way.
Mycologist?
Yes.
Okay, coll. Yeah. So, those are just questions that, like, I was just, like, I just have a curious mind and, just thinking about it. I just typed in, if you can type in on Google, anyone can do this, just are plants conscious? And a whole bunch of, like, TED Talks come up, research papers, because scientists have asked this question for a long time, too. And so it's just a fascinating topic. And another thing, okay, going on top, like, how do we know that? What's the closest thing we know? As far as from what I saw, they basically understood that plants through their root systems, and I don't know, I'm saying plants in general, there's so many different species and kinds, but some species are able to basically hear, I don't know how they hear, but they can hear water flowing, and they can grow towards that water. They also know, like, if a whole bunch of seeds were planted in the same area, they know if they're all related. So they know if they all come from the same plant or the same fruit or whatever.
What the fuck?
So, like, they will all grow in synchrony, and you can watch them in time lapse. That's how you watch all of these videos. They're all in time lapse.
Yeah,
so,
they'd have to be.
Because that's how we also think. We're like, plants don't move. You know what I mean?
Because to the human eye, when you're just perceiving it in real time, it just feels like...
Yeah, and that's another problem, is our human perception is so limited. But whenever they're all growing together, they're all growing in synchrony. So, how sometimes you watch them in time lapse, they're like, looks like they're growing in, like, kind of like a circular spiral form. They literally all grow exactly in that same pattern with no deviation. They're all growing in synchrony together in that same motion. It's wild to watch if y'all ever want to pull that up, but it's some crazy stuff. Like, it's like, how does that work?
Does any part of you think that this is like evidence for, I don't know, whenever I hear about these things, I just struggle with the concept of believing that, like, this just all happened by chance. Like some big fucking bang happened, and then, wow, we had all this shit, and these plants just grow this way. And I just feel like there had to have been some sort of, like, divine creation of I just can't imagine this shit just happening by chance. All these plants, they just grow the same way. All these plants, you just find the Fibonacci sequence in all these plants just randomly. Like, I don't know. What does that mean? Do things like this, like plants doing these amazing things and finding plants behaving in a way that lines up with the way other plants behave, is that possible evidence, or do you think that leans the evidence towards all this shit was not created just by random chance?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a design, like an intelligent design to everything that we see and experience.
Yeah, it could mean this is all a simulation, and the simulation just programmed all this that way because it was like the most efficient way to do it.
Yeah.
Hey, it saves space on our fucking hard drive up here on the mothership if all these plants grow the same way, so,
Yeah, man. Well, whenever I look at, like, a galaxy, like a spiral formation of a galaxy, and then I look at my finger,
You look at your fingerprint.
look at your fingerprint, and then look at a picture of a galaxy, and you're like, whoa, something is weird, you know? And then you look at plants, and then you look at like whirlwinds, you
Yeah.
look at tornadoes, you look at hurricanes, you look at, there's an infinite amount of connectivity or similarity between everything in existence.
Right.
You know, you look at a root system, you look at like the veins in the leaves, you look at the veins in your body, you look at the way rivers have veins, like the way they, if you look
yeah.
at the main, like the main
Especially if
rivers,
you look
and the
at
way they
them
break
from
off.
like satellite
Yeah,
imagery
look at
of
satellite
rivers and
image of a
deltas.
river.
Oh yeah,
It looks just like a vein
it
system.
really does.
And how, like, stuff like that, when I look at that, I'm like, okay, there's an intelligence. There's a reason
Sure.
why all of these things are happening the way they happen. And it's a study of physics and the study of, I mean, scientists definitely have been studying this for a long time, but there's something deeper to it too, other than like the physical. Like, this is just what we see, right? And then we just mentioned like our limited awareness, our limited ability, just being in a human body, just the limited amount of perception that we have. Like, we can only see like a very tiny percentage of the light spectrum,
Right.
and just many other things that our hearing is limited. Our you know, there's so much that's limited. So I feel like there's so much more that's happening around us that we're unaware of, and so it just makes you think even more about like how incredible like this place and this experience we're living in, and how much we still have to learn. So
And I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking about how like sci-fi movies come out all the time, and people are so like entranced in like, oh, look at this other planet. Look at this crazy alien species. When it's like, bro, we have wild shit happening on Earth. Like, sometimes I'll go to the grocery store and I'll see like some crazy ass fruit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is coming from this planet. We have wild shit that looks like a sci-fi. Like, look at a dragon fruit.
yeah,
And tell me that shit doesn't look like it came from like Clendathu 9 or some fucking foreign
a
planet.
jackfruit. It's
Yeah,
the
look at a
largest
jackfruit.
on the planet, I think.
It's huge. How much do they weigh? Each one of them?
I think they can get up to 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Some of them can, yeah.
And then like they have the consistency of like pulled pork on the inside. It's so weird.
Yeah. And then we just discovered, literally moments before this podcast, Tom showed me a freaking giant rabbit.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I never knew this existed.
The fucking-
So we're learning about different species,
yeah. Put this on.
of
I'm gonna pull one up. Hold on. here.
animals and plants that we never knew existed.
We
and we're
talked
in our-
about this like on one of our very first podcasts when we were looking at that pink fairy armadillo, and it's like, dude, we're so entranced with like.
Yeah.
Like, I've been playing a lot of Mass Effect, the video game, because they just came out with the Legendary Edition, so I've been playing a lot of that. And you're constantly going to all these other planets, at least in the first game you are. You're driving around on all these other planets, and you're, like, meeting all these different species and shit. But it's like, dude, I mean, that shit, every day there's some shit to explore, like, right here in real life on this planet. So it's super crazy. I'm about to pull up a picture of a Fleming
Yeah.
giant bunny
And then
or rabbit.
me and Tom are really excited to see what's going to happen when the government comes out in 3 days now about what they're going to release with all the UFO information and
Yes.
or UPAs, however they want to call them.
So yes, we wanted to talk about. Okay, here, Adam, put this image on the screen. I guarantee you,
That's a
no
grown
one
man.
listening to this shit knew that this existed.
Yeah, if you're listening, check out our YouTube, or you can just type what are these called?
Fleming giant bunnies or
Yeah.
Fleming giant rabbits.
Type it in on Google if you want to see the picture of this thing.
So at first, this was stupid, but at first I thought that they were naturally occurring. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Imagine just being in the wild, you stumble across this. But I guess they're bred to be this large. They use them for food and for fur, like rabbit meat and rabbit coats and hairbrushes and shit like that.
Yeah, right.
Or, makeup brushes, whatever they use rabbit fur. I think they use a lot of rabbit fur for makeup brushes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. That or horse.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think, and they use like boar bristles for paint brushes, shit like that. Anyway, yeah, you can discover new shit every day. But our next episode, we really wanted to talk. This is going to be a short episode today, but our next episode, which will air 1 week from when you're listening to this right now, Friday, it's going to be like the 5th or something like that. The 4th, Friday, June 4th. On June 1st, the Pentagon is releasing their big all-inclusive report on what we know about UFOs, UAPs, and possibly even some information on extraterrestrials. So we will be doing a literally out of this world podcast next week, and we're going to just basically, Adam and I, for you, the listener, we will do you the service of reading the entire report. I don't care if that bitch is 300 pages
No, we're
long.
not going to read it word for word.
I am going to read it word for word.
But we'll do it before the show and definitely like report on it. But I mean, we don't have to read the whole thing. Come
Okay,
on.
you don't have to. It could just be 45 minutes of this shot right here, and I'm just breaking it down. But I'm going to read.
We'll read most of it.
Okay.
though. We'll definitely read most of it.
What are you expecting to find out? Do you think it will be underwhelming, overwhelming, or par for the course in terms of what you're expecting?
You know, I really do not know because this past few years has been wild for, I mean, the amount of stuff that has come out. Like,
I've never, in all of my years, which obviously like isn't that long, I've never seen anything like what's happening right now. The government actively releasing videos and saying, hey, here's this UFO footage. We don't know how to explain it, but we can confirm this video is real. You're watching a real video of a real UFO.
yeah.
Hey, we've created a task force. We want everyone to know about it. We have a task force that is all about UAPs. Hey, David Fravor, fighter pilot that witnessed a very famous UFO sighting. Do 60 Minutes. Yeah, do nightly news. Tell everyone about it, you know? Like,
Yeah, and there's been instances like this before where people have come out and told their stories, especially credible people have come out and told these
Sure.
stories
Yeah.
for years, I mean, 50 years ago. But they never were like taken seriously. There was
Right.
no one coming out that was like kind of like verifying
Right.
it or anything like that. So you just had to take it for what it was. But now we have literally governments, and there's other governments around the world. It's not
sure,
just us.
It's not just us.
Who have come out with their reports and released documents. And we just think because we're the U.S., we're just so credible.
Right.
And you know what I mean? But there's other governments have been released their UFO files. So anyways.
So why now?
Yeah,
What do
we'll
you
see.
think?
I don't know.
Why now? Why are they... I was talking about this with Claire last night, and she was like, you know, like we were talking about why now, all of a sudden, June
Yeah.
1st, 2021. Do you feel like it's because these UFO sightings are becoming so prevalent and now the whole world has access to YouTube? Like they just have to tell us now because...
Well, I think the one thing that I think is probably the most reasonable thing is our collective consciousness has changed. Like the awareness on the topic has grown immensely. The amount of people who are interested in the topic is huge.
Yeah, I'm, like I feel like if you asked your average person back in like 1980, you were like,
Yeah.
"What do you think about aliens?"
Yeah.
They'd be like, "What fucking aliens? What? I
Like,
don't
oh,
know,
yeah,
man. I
Alien the
gotta go
movie?"
listen to Tears for Fears." You know, like
Yeah.
they wouldn't be inclined to really be doubling down on the presence of aliens. And I mean, I would say if you asked your average person now, your average person would probably concede that yeah, there are aliens
Dude,
out there.
I'm sure you can look that up. I'm sure people have gone and done like just studies
Yeah.
and just walked around
Just
and
ask people, like, what
and
percentage of
I'm
people-
sure it's pretty high. I think it's over 50% last I saw.
So it's like if the majority of the planet does believe that there are aliens, and large numbers of the public have either posted a video or like they've had their own experience or they've just seen a video of UFOs on some sort of internet site, do you feel like now the government feels like, okay, we are clearly not going to be able to hide this forever. It's better if they find out from us than find out we knew all this time and we're hiding. You know, like why do you feel like the government is about to give us more and more information on UAPs and UFOs?
Well, did you know early on, whenever they're first doing like Project Blue Book or whatever those early UFO projects were, like the CIA and other government agencies working on, I forgot who it was, but I saw or heard someone talking about within the government, in the U.S. government, somebody made it a point to make UFO a bullshit topic, like to make it, to push it out into public as if it were just some nonsense. Don't mind it at all. This is just nonsense talk while they're studying the subject and the topic, right?
Right.
And so that they purposefully changed the people's consciousness on this topic. And they do the same thing with a lot of other things, like with weed, for example. You know what I mean? The government can so easily influence our perception on things, and that was one of them.
Item 9.
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, so I mean that was early on, but now I feel like there's people in and who have been coming to these government agencies and reporting all of these things, and people who are actually working in the government now who believe in these topics. And I mean, we even see like Paul Hellyer, the Canadian defense minister, who was
Yeah.
a long time UFO, like
I mean,
enthusiast. So,
I mean, we've talked about it before on the show. Paul Hellier straight up came out and was like, yeah, there's aliens. They're here right now. Government's working with 3 different species of them. And he like described what they were like. And that video, like, you can still watch it today.
Yeah.
And it's like, why would he lie? So I feel like...
Yeah, and there's just imagine the amount of Navy pilots or everyone who's worked in the military.
David Fravor was saying they see him every day.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Every single day.
So you have these guys who are in the government or in the military who are constantly, like, this is in their awareness, like, constantly. This is always, like, they're dealing with these kind of things all the time. And so you have guys, they usually get government jobs later on, you know what I mean? So these guys are in the government. And I feel like that a lot of their minds have shifted and just changing the way we see it and want to, and deal with it. So, I think a lot of that is probably, to deal or changing that. So, and then on top of that, we have like these guys who are dedicated to getting this message out. So we have Netflix videos coming out all the time. Who are like directors who are super fascinated in the topic, who are just making documentaries of people's testimonials. And so you have the everyday person just having easy access to credible information. But another interesting, who Stephen Greer is?
I can't say that I do.
Okay,
No,
Stephen Greer. He was actually on the Joe Rogan podcast a long time ago, but actually first heard about him because my brother Aaron told me about him. He wrote a book, I think it's called, I forgot the name of the book, Unacknowledged, something like that. But he wrote a book, and he was a doctor, right? He was like a pretty respectable doctor, was doing like surgeries or something, like working in like one of those intense doctor positions where they're working in the ER or something like that. And was really high up, making good money, no reason to quit his job, but he ended up quitting his job and pursuing UFO research. And he just dedicated his life to it because he said he had an experience where he said he was like meditating on a mountain or something, and like an alien came down to him and like touched him and had a conversation. And he said he was like able to astral project his body into like the universe. And go, crazy story. Take it for what it is. You believe it if you want. I don't know how credible he is. Personally, I struggle with that, but I don't say he's not wrong. I don't say he's right either, but I just kind of like take it for what he is. It's his experience, and he shared it with the world. So it is what it is. I don't know. But he also, he leads people out into fields, out in the middle of nowhere, and he has like, he purposely sets up like contact with UFOs. So like he says he's able to, Dude, I'm just telling you what it is.
He's got to be nuts.
No, I don't know, bro. I don't know. I'm just telling you what he does. And so he's actually briefed presidents in the White House, and he's also been to other governments, like in France. He's supposedly like good friends with certain government officials in France, and has gotten a lot of documentation, UFO documents, and he's led a lot of these accounts. And so I honestly don't know how credible this guy is, but I only brought him up because he's brought a lot of like information to the White House in different places, and you have other guys like this you just never hear about who have like dedicated their lives to this research, and they'll try and go and like bring it to governments and stuff like that, and spread the word. And I brought him up for another reason. I forgot why I brought him up. What were we talking about originally? The
UFO report.
No, I forgot exactly why I brought him up.
Paul Hellier.
No, it's okay. I'll remember in a minute. But anyways, another fascinating guy. So yeah, he leads contacts out there. He'll go take people out.
I mean, I'd be down to go out there.
Yeah, I mean, why not, right? Like an experience. He said he's able to like have UFOs come down, or at least be able to like hover over them or see them like on the horizon or something like that. I don't know. It's pretty fascinating.
So I mean, there's thousands of people that have stories of having like had these encounters. And some of them are like, oh, my soul was taken out to the stars and I floated amongst heavenly bodies.
Yeah, that's
and then some people are like,
astral projection.
I was fishing and this alien came down right above the lake and he shoved his fingers in my throat and then like...
Dude, you know one story I just recently saw was, this was a Russian document that was released to the public. You can look this up too. In one of the lakes, one of the deepest lakes, I forgot what it's called. There's a lake that's one of the deepest lakes in the world, and it's covered by ice usually year round because it's so cold where that is. and basically they're doing like research around that area, and there was divers going down below the ice, and they said that they saw alien bodies, and that they said that they
What
had
the
it looked
fuck?
like they had suits on, like skin tight suits, and they had like a bubble, like an air bubble around their head, I guess to help them breathe, or I don't know if that's just what they
They
looked
were
like.
dead?
No, they were alive. They were floating, and they said they looked at them, and they said one of the guys. These are military personnel, like people, military research they were doing out there. And one of the guys, or I guess they decided to try and catch them with a net.
What?
And so they basically tried to go and catch one of them.
What?
And they said as soon as they tried to get close to them,
They got zapped.
they basically something happened to where it forced all of them up to the surface. They immediately all got like shot up to the surface. And what happens is you have what is it called when the divers go too far up and it messes with your pressure, your blood pressure?
The bends? Like,
Yeah.
like
Like
the
two of
nitrogen
them-
in your blood or whatever. It's
and-
called getting the bends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and two of the divers died
Because the aliens
because
fucking
they
forced
forced
lifted
them up because they tried to catch them and forced them up, and two of the people died because they suffered from that, and such crazy shit like that. I
It's
don't-
like a really bad way to die too. I think.
yeah. So I mean, take it for what it is, but that's a government document that came out through Russia.
And so they're just chilling in this deep ass lake in Russia.
yeah. So that's another theory. A lot of people think that
There's
their
too
bases
many
are-
aliens, man. You have the underwater aliens, the triangle ship aliens, the ball of light aliens, the tic tac UFO
Yeah.
aliens. Fuck, give us a break, man. Can we just learn about one at a time?
So
you know,
but like another thing is like, what if they're not? What if they're not from a different galaxy? What
they've
if they're
just
from
been
Earth?
here all the time.
Yeah, what if they're just living in the bottom of our oceans, which we know more about the surface of the moon than we do about the bottom of our oceans. So what if there's just freaking alien bases in the bottom of our oceans? We have no idea that have been there since before humans.
Sure,
I don't know.
could be.
Anyway.
They could be right there next door at Mars, underground. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. So, what are you expecting to hear in this report?
Dude, I honestly don't know, man. What I hope to hear is I hope that the government says we've been studying this topic for a long time. I want them to just tell the truth. I want them to just let us know everything that they know. Be honest about what happened. You know what the research they're doing at Area 51. Do we have any crashed structures? Do we
Yeah.
have any UFO
Yeah.
parts or pieces or actual crafts? Do we have anything like that? Have we discovered any bodies?
See, I don't
you know
think
what I mean?
I think
Anything
they'll
like
tell
that.
us some stuff,
Yeah.
but I don't think they're going to give us that much shit. I don't think on 3 days from now they're going to be like, all right, we have aliens. They're here, man. We have some alien bodies. We got some living aliens. I think it'll be very basic. I think they'll be like,
Oh, okay. I
We've-
remembered why I brought up Stephen Greer.
okay, this is going to have to be the last thing.
All right, last thing.
I know it's a short episode.
One of his
sorry, guys.
theories is that I don't know if he had what sources he says he has, but he says the government could possibly use UFOs as an enemy or a reason to go to war. So like, you know how we always have like enemies? Like, I mean, I'm pretty convinced 9/11 was a giant scam to make us go to war in the Middle East. But you know what I mean? Like we always like, as far as like countries or even like the world, like we need like an enemy to like, so we can all gather around and like
Sure.
have this like camaraderie. Like
So you
we
think
have a
the
common
next-
enemy to fight.
The next
Yeah.
uniting enemy
So-
will be the little green men from Mars.
Yeah.
We shall unite. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it's a theory. I don't know how true it is. I don't know how much you want to put on that. But anyways, that's something he brought up in one of his books. I remember
be.
him. So
Well, so we'll end on this. I know this is a very short episode, but we will end on this. June 1st. If we find out that they're here, it's happening, first contact, the genesis, whatever, please do not freak out, okay? Please do not riot and fucking shoot your neighbors in the street. We're gonna be okay, all right? We got this. It's Texas. We all have guns. If the aliens get froggy, then, you know, we'll just have No, I'm just kidding.
I mean,
But
if there's aliens here, just know they're 10 times more intelligent
yeah,
than you. And
don't worry
so-
about it. You know,
Yeah,
if we
just-
all get turned into a little pile of dust on the floor, then that's what it is. It's been real. Hope we make it past another week. We'll be back on Friday, God willing, with another episode of the Midnight Variety Hour where we will tell you all about the June 1st Pentagon report. Until next time, stay safe out there in the cosmos and praise Xanadu. No, I'm just kidding.
Peace, y'all.